It is 7 p.m. Welcome to the book club. Here, your host, Marilyn Day.
Well, good evening, everyone. So happy you all came out on this Saturday night of one more Saturday night in COVID, but it's going to be a nice Saturday night because we are in for a treat tonight. Our moderator is not only a moderator, but is also our co-host. Roosevelt Jean-Francois is from Haiti. He came over here in 2013 and instantly joined Club Voice. They must have heard he was coming over here and solicited his services. But anyways, Roosevelt is a distinguished Toastmaster. He is currently the, what is that? You are a logistic manager at the district level, isn't that right?
That is right. Well said.
Okay, very good. And also was a select distinguished area director in the years 2017 and 2018. He is part of our book club, as you all know, and an avid reader. And we are going to be able to benefit from his reading abilities tonight because he is our moderator. So tell me something, Roosevelt. Why did you choose this book?
That is a very good question. Welcome, fellows. It was last year when we met for the last time. In the meantime, the world has changed. Big shifts, leadership position, and as well, the power of the word is back. We have seen Amanda Gorman with gestures, with eloquence, use the power of words to illuminate the thoughts, the minds, and the conscience of millions of people. Tonight, we're taking advantage of this platform to share something in common while we are distancing apart. We are having a feast of reading within the book club. I am Roosevelt Jean-Francois, and I will be serving as your facilitator today. My job is just to share the conversation, to listen to you, to have a flowlessly conversation. This book is outstanding. For the last month, we have been reading It's Your Ship, Management Techniques from the Best Damn Ship in the Navy. It's your ship, but it might be it's your home. It might be it's your business. It might be it's your club, since we are most Toastmasters in the making. It might be your business, as I said. It might be you. It might be it's your you. We will see together what we have learned from this book, but I would like to hear your stories. How did you take those techniques and apply them, or how you intend to apply them today? Of course, if we go over the book, our main duty tonight is not to read word by word the book. We can go and read it for ourselves, but it's to share the nuggets that we have learned. I've jotted down some notes. I would like to hear about why leadership matters. Why should we have fun in an organization? It was Wednesday. I had a quick chat with distinguished Toastmaster Marilyn Day, and she told me, I am reading this chapter about taking risks, how important it is. And I put wonderful. Tonight, this will be part of our conversation. It will also why trust matters in our organization. Why should we trust? And that's why I would like to ask my friend Steve, you have read that book, and we start with leadership. Tell us who you are, what you do, and why leadership matters, and what did you learn from this book when we consider the leadership angle of the author. And the author is Captain Michael ABRASHOFF. He was a former commander of the USS Benfold. Steve, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roosevelt. I think most of you know me by now. I'm a member, co-founder of the Broward Bilingual Toastmasters Club, a distinguished Toastmaster like most of you. But in any case, when I started reading this book, you know, I got the impression that I was dealing with some management figure who was sort of like a goody two shoes, and that he was, you know, it didn't really matter what metric existed within the Navy for ships, but he set out to just break every record that break every record that the ship could, frankly. And you know, I found that it was very interesting. I've had management positions in the past. You know, one of the things that ABRASHOFF did was he was willing to challenge the system, as you say, take risks. And I think that as a general rule, yes, you can take risks, but I think that in his position with his ship, where he had a high degree of autonomy, he was able to do a lot of things that if you're working in an organization today, a big bureaucracy, it's a lot more difficult to take those kinds of risks, I think, than he took. But I do agree, and in my experience running different organizations, and particularly overseas, where I was an expat in a couple of countries in Asia, I do agree wholeheartedly that the most important ingredient in managing anything is trust. Because if trust doesn't exist, then for one thing, it's extremely inefficient. Why is it inefficient? Because people have to think through everything 2 and 3 times before they can actually take action or take initiative.
I totally agree with you on that. And the reason I agree with you is that trust is such a big part of this book that we will discuss this item by itself later on. But I would like to stay on the concept of leadership, and I will ask my friend Linda, in the prologue, in the introduction of the book, ABRASHOFF wrote, "You cannot prepare tomorrow's battle with antiquated methods." The way I understand it, you cannot use yesterday's tool for tomorrow's realities. What's your thought of that, Linda?
I think it depends on the situation. I think sometimes in certain situations, you get away from what was better. And a case in point being, we've gotten away from good nutrition, which was the basis of medicine. And now we're working on going into what drug can we take, what antiviral, what can we do when we haven't prepared our body the best we can in an immune situation. But it was interesting because in reading this book, I know exactly why I am not in corporate America and haven't been since because there is so much in there where innovation could have made something better, but the status quo wouldn't allow you to innovate. So I think there's got to be a compromise between both. If you can prove that doing it a better way or a different way provides a better situation or a better solution or a better outcome, then adopt the better way.
And I understand what you said. What you mean is that you don't just change because you want to change. You change because you want to have better results. And I totally agree. And now that puts us in a segue that I will with this. Real leadership is about understanding yourself. It starts with you. You lead by example. And I'm pretty sure, Marie-Hélène, you exemplify this. You are the host of this book club, but you led by example. You are the very first one to be present. And for me, this is leadership in the making, Marie-Hélène.
I think one of my strengths is I have a sense of responsibility, or I am what you would call dependable. And being dependable goes a long way. However, when I read these books on leadership, I always feel like I'm wanting on some end of it. And especially when I have to review my history as a mother, I'm still going over all that again, even with my children all grown up. I love the fact, one of the things he said is to ask yourself the question, is whatever you're doing, would you want it to be on the front page of the Washington Post?
Mm.
And I think that's a pretty good question that we need to ask. Well, I need to ask myself. I can't speak for the rest of you, but certainly, yeah.
So it depends. You might be in the front page of the Washington Post if you're doing something positive, if you're contributing to the community, but you don't want to be because you're hiding something or you do something that you are not proud of, or at least that is not elevating the community that you are building. Right. And I would like to stay in the concept of leadership. And also he mentioned management techniques. Is leadership different from management? Can we just use techniques? This is one of the things that I do not agree with the author, because techniques is something that you use, but leadership should be genuine. Can I say so, Dave? What's your take on that?
Well, Roosevelt, speaking from middle management, I am exactly in that position. I am a leader in many cases, but the ultimate decision is always much higher. What I do have power over is what they call management versus leadership. So leadership makes the decisions, but management keeps the boat afloat. So management handles the difficult things, the difficult decisions, the routine things. I'm the XO.
I agree with that. This is, once again, this is the book club, the District 47 book club. And tonight we are sharing our thoughts on the book for the month of January. It's Your Ship. And this book club has been there for at least a couple of months. We went over a couple of other books. At the end, we will tell you exactly what books we have read for the last 4 months and what books will be coming, and as well, your contribution. Got a couple of fellows. If this is your very first time at the book club, we would like to welcome you. And first of all, I would like to welcome my dear friend, Maribel Soto. How are you doing today? Have you read the book?
Hello, Roosevelt, distinguished Toastmaster Roosevelt, and distinguished Toastmasters and everyone else. My name is Maribel. I am a member of Toast of Las Olas. Thank you for having me here today. It is my first time here. I have not read the book yet, but I still wanted to come and join all of you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And this is the main idea. The main idea is to do something together while we are apart and reading a book that can come afterwards. But the idea is that we are sharing thoughts. We are drinking from deep minds, people who have taken the time first to write this book. And second, you will see that we may have read the same content, but we have different viewpoints from the content that we have read. There is a second part besides leadership. Of course, we have gone over the leadership content. He called them techniques. And as I said, I did not find myself on this part calling relationships cannot be technique. But he gave lots of space in this content about personal relationships. And I would be asking my friend Lauren, why in this book, what did you get in terms of personal relationships, in terms of how ABRASHOFF took time to know his players or to know his enlistment in the book?
I think what was very interesting is the culture was very divided. You have enlisteds, privates, and never the two meet. We eat in the dining room, you guys eat in the mess hall. He called them the brass generals, knew nothing about the men who ran the ship every single day. When you get to know your people, you build a relationship, you connect with them. You know, that section in the book where he said that the young man came and said that his father looked at him as a waste of time all his life, but he got this personal letter and the sense of pride that his father felt about him. You know, that comes when you take the time out to learn about the people who work, and they work hard on those boats. And it doesn't make a difference if it's a corporation, your family, but working on connecting with people, it is hard, but it has huge rewards. And he showed that in the book. So it's very important.
And also he mentioned the importance of one-on-one conversation, taking the time. And he even has a script. It seems to me that he is scripted. If I meet you, I ask you your name, I ask you about your family. Now, what did we learn from this experience when we meet someone, when someone is visiting our club? The first impression, what we called someone...
An introduction.
An introduction. And how important is that?
It's a welcoming. And he talked about that also is how do the new recruits feel when they come onto the boat? Do they feel like it's a place that is honoring their commitment to their country and to their duty? Or are they just people who are just, willy-nilly? And they were just willy-nilly, just dropped there. No one knew who they were. No one was there at the airport to pick them up. And then part of that was to make a phone call to let your parents know that you're okay. And then he spent a little time getting to know the new recruits who are coming on board. But we do that when we have somebody that come to our house. You welcome a guest in. We have standards. And he was very shocked to find out that they had no standard for welcoming their new recruits. So that was very interesting.
Not only it's interesting, but this is also a path that we may follow in our day-to-day, the way we interact with those we are called to lead. And also relationship. I know Aura might add something on that. It's not only the relationship with your peers or the relationship with those you are leading, but also there is a relationship with your boss, a relationship with the top of the organization. And how do you manage to lead your boss, leading at the level where you
from
are,
the top,
and you are leading your boss
up. But that also comes with connecting, paying attention. My mom used to have a saying, know who you're dealing with and act accordingly. Pay attention to how people act, response, manage themselves, manage other people, and you get a decent picture of who they are. And he showed that over and over and over again throughout the book of some not nice generals that if we had to work with, we would have just quit. But
I would like to listen to you. Have you been in the position where you disagree with your boss, and how did you lead from there?
I wish I could share some of those private moments, but I cannot because we've been recorded. But in general, I have a very good relationship with my boss. Remember, you mentioned trust. I think trust is the basic of that relationship. For example, one of my supervisors, she passed away, and last week was her funeral. And she was a supervisor for many different sites, locations in the school system. And this woman was so powerful. Her relationships were she had all the basic of the foundations of the good relationship when it comes to leadership, that she left that feeling of emptiness, and everybody was just grieving her loss, her leadership, her command, the trusting level that we had. A phone call away from a supervisor, that's something that you don't see every day, but For example, with me, I was able to build this trusting relationship with her to the point where she would blindly trust me. I trust your judgment. Go ahead and do what you need to do. I trust that whatever you do is in the best interest of the child, is in the best interest of the school system. And the bottom line is trust. And I trusted that woman blindly. She was my
So that
support.
means if you don't build that relationship and you don't have that foundation, which is trust. There is an author, his name is Simon Sinek. I'm pretty sure he has a book, Start With Why. Even in a relationship, you need to know why. What is it that we are building together? I know in the workplace, this is an association of contracts sometimes because we are there as a job. But there are some relationships, if you're married, if you have kids, those are relationships that you cannot decide. It seems to me you have an example you would like to share with us, Linda.
So as a small business accountant, the trust element was really brought up a couple of years ago with one of my clients. They have 10 employees and they've always had the time clock. That wasn't the big deal. But the owner decided to put in video cameras to watch what everybody was doing. Oh, well, for security purposes. They all totally felt like they were being put under a microscope. And of course, the only time that he ever noticed anything is when somebody was having a bad moment or something like that, or they took a break and got a drink of water, they're not working. And it really destroyed the culture in that business, big time.
And sometimes trust is like a glass of milk. As soon as you got a fly in it, you lose it. It's not that you have half of it or you have a tiny trust. It's either be or not. Will you agree with that, Elena?
Yes, I would agree with that 100%. Trust is the most important thing for me. So yes, if there is even a shadow.
And trust, Elena, as you say, trust is something you earn. He said it. You have to earn it. This is not a given. Elena?
I did not say it, but it's a good idea that I agree with.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I would like to move to the next step in this book. This is an outstanding book. I like it. The ability to listen. Not only you listen, but you listen aggressively. I know you can speak aggressively, but how can you listen aggressively? And for this, I would like to hear my dear friend Garfield. Why listening is important, and what did you get in terms of how aggressive can you be in listening?
Listening is very important. From an early age, growing up in the Caribbean, my grandparents always said, "Listen, you have two ears and one mouth. So you should act accordingly. So you should generally listen more than you speak." And one of the big principle of Dale Carnegie is that you need to understand the person first before you can get your point across. So listening allows you to understand where the person is coming from, where you can meet them, and where you can start the conversation on. And in education, we study Vygotsky, the part of optical, where you have to know where the person is at and where to start the conversation. That is why listening is so important. Because if you're going to start the conversation over the person or below the person, it doesn't work. That's why aggressive listening is important for everybody to understand.
And also by aggressive, I mean, if I am listening to you, you are the only person in the room. I'm not divided attention.
Right.
Not only I'm listening to you with my ears, I'm listening to you with my body. I know that I am with you.
We call it multitasking,
Mm-hmm.
which is really
But he said
rubbish, but
this
we
is part
call
of
him,
his
yeah,
job. He
yeah,
describes his job. Part of his job is to listen aggressively, and
yeah.
he's working in meeting with people one-on-one. And also this is part of developing that personal relationship, because if I can listen to you telling me your story, where you from, how you get there, now I know you better. And he coined a concept. I have taken notes. I hope I could say it well. I want round people in round holes. I don't want to put round people in squares. And I know in French, there is a way you say when you want to put a circle and you want to turn it into a square, we call it la quadrature du cercle. I know, Steve, you can tell us more. How do you understand that?
Well, I think what ABRASHOFF really had to do was beyond just establishing individual relationships and telling his relationship to the individual. He had to change culture, and there was a culture that prevailed in the Navy. And I think this is where, we spoke about leadership as a concept, we spoke about trust as a separate concept, but I think it's very, very difficult to separate them because they kind of play upon one another. And unless you can get people to trust and then to take initiative and to do things differently by setting the lead, unless you're able to accomplish that, you really can change the prevailing culture either on a ship or in any particular organization. And I know that we're talking about ABRASHOFF and having individual meetings and establishing individual relationships, but I think that if we put that in perspective, he had 3,100 seamen on the ship, and so his individual relationships, I'd say that he was able to establish, were still few and far between, if you will. But what he was able to do was to get the leadership on the ship below him to buy into this new sort of culture that he was establishing. And I think that's what helped turned everything around on that ship.
Would you like to add something on that, Marilyn?
I thought there was only 310 people on that ship. Was I wrong about that?
I think so. I think that's 300. But sometimes you can add a zero.
Well, that makes a big difference.
That's just multiply your leadership by 10.
There are more people on the ship.
But
well, anyway,
someone said the more you lead people, the more animals you have in the bonds, more do-dos. That means more issues. So that means when you lead a community of 300 and a community of 3,000, this is a different total ball games. But at the end of the day, what I agree with Steve is as soon as you have the pathways now, and as soon as you have the script, and as soon as you have a model, now the numbers are not that important. That's what I would add, and I agree with him on that.
Well, I disagree with you that if one of his goals was to learn each of the crewmen's name on that first month that he was on board, I think it's pretty difficult to learn over 3,000 names, just my opinion. But, that's something aside. I'm just teasing a little bit.
Yes, I agree with you on that. But now
let me just say something that really struck me very hard.
Go ahead.
It's the Navy and a lot of young boys on ship, and many of them have never gone to college, and they might have even dropped out of high school for all I know. And many of them are in families where there was no father present there. So in terms of the leadership skills in the Navy and where they were, I mean, it was critical and probably lucky for many of those boys on ship that they met such a captain that he was trying to, and he said something about, I was trying not to emphasize the diversity, I was trying to create unity. So I thought, as I got into the book, I really started to enjoy it more as he got more and more personal about people relationships. That's what I was interested in, that story. And the story was, really pulled me in, especially at the end of the book.
And I would like to listen to Mary Bellis on this, since she mentioned in our chat that she has a military background. You were in the Army, Mary Bellis. And if I ask you that question, even if you didn't read the book, but I want you to participate in that part of the conversation. It's not about the content of the book. Now we want to leave the book by itself, and now we want to appropriate the content in our own context. That's why I would like to listen to you.
And what is your exact question?
My question is, we're talking, you mentioned diversity or unity. Instead of having training, and we can talk a lot about training. That was one of the key nuggets that I would like to take some time on, because you mentioned training not only about leadership, training on being a seaman, training for combat, training for self-development, training for growth, training to teach others what you know. But also, he says that this is not one size fits all. We're talking about unity and diversity, and most of corporate America came with that diversity and inclusiveness.
Yes.
Now, what's your take on this?
Well, I can tell you a few stories. When the reason why I joined to begin with was because I knew that I needed more discipline. And even though my parents were always really good about providing that, I felt I needed more beyond that. And I had already obtained my Associate of Arts degree, and I was a little lost. And when I went to boot camp, it gave me what exactly I knew I was going to get, because I had done my research, but I wasn't prepared for a few things. Like, I didn't know that, for example, they want everyone to feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're in uniforms. That's why there's equality that kept on being preached. And that's why the females would wear their hair up and not down. That's why also we had to watch out, both us and the drill sergeants, for sexual harassment. So we always had to go with a buddy. We had a buddy system. We couldn't approach a drill sergeant or anyone in a leadership position unless we were together as a team, two people at all times. There were lots of boundaries that we just simply could not cross, and they're there for specific reasons. And I mean, it was one of the best decisions I have ever made, because it provided me with so much discipline. And sometimes when I think I cannot do something and I'm second guessing myself, I come back and I say, what are you talking about? You were in the army, you did this, you did that, da 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 da. And I couldn't even do a push-up when I first got in. So to me, leadership is really a must. And I'm looking forward to reading the book. Thank you.
Not only that, we're looking forward for you to be active next month in the book club. It's not about reading the book, it's being active in the book club and to do something together. And what I like about this environment is that we can see that even if we are reading the same content, but the way we perceive and our own experience is totally different. Now, do we have any fellow who has a military background? I'm just asking, just to make sure that there is another angle that we might see the content. Lorena, haven't you been in service?
No, we just call that motherhood.
Oh, okay. That's another type. That's another. I like the way you put it, because one of the things that you mentioned in the book, because I want also we take advantage of this, is the importance of having fun.
Yes.
Make it fun.
You know what bit I really was like, what are they going to do with all that beer? With the beer, he was like, I'm going to get this beer. I don't care. And he kept getting, no, you're not having this beer. No, you're not going to get this beer. And he finally got the beer, and they must have had that beer for a hot minute, but you saw what they ended up doing with the beer, having fun. Because, you know, that saying, you know, work hard, play hard, you have to have that balance. You know, it'll make Jack a dull boy.
And sometimes if we don't take time, even plan to have fun, we stay too much stern, serious.
Yeah.
Now,
And it's nothing
the
to gain
importance
from
of
that.
having some good food, Linda, is that
I was-
important?
I wasn't going to say about the food, but having fun. It's well known when you start getting burned out and you start getting to the point that there's so much to do and you're falling further and further behind. Often the best thing you can do is take a vacation, get away, get some relaxation, de-stress a bit, and come back, and all of a sudden you have a different point of view, and it's easier to get your work accomplished. And you get caught up, you think you can't do it because you don't have enough time to get everything done now, but those are the times that you need it the most. And in a situation like they were in with Desert Storm and with being in wartime and things like that, the stress aspect of that, of course they needed the fun too to balance it.
Dave, on having fun? Dave, Jess?
Yes, having fun. I think all Toastmasters clubs should have parties, and especially the theme parties that we had at 2004 was always a highlight. I appreciate that David Esposito would get all the decorations for our Halloween and our Christmas party. So there are times that you can have lots of fun, and that's important that you do that no matter where you are, except maybe in jail. Well, maybe that would be good, but that's maybe where you need it even more. But you get the idea.
Even mentioned to have a fun coordinator, someone who is in charge of putting together to have your public address, music. And this is something, Marilyn, we might consider to have some fun with this book club as well. Don't you think so?
Well, you know what? I think this is the thing that bothers me the most about the quarantine here, or Corona, is not COVID, excuse me. I keep confusing it with the beer now that we're starting to talk about the beer. But yeah, you know what? I miss that personal contact with my other Toastmaster members. And we used to have some great parties. Broward Bilingual always had wonderful parties, and you know, Toastmasters generally are good-natured people. They're fun, they're vivacious, they're lively. They love to get together. And I don't know what we could do on Zoom. I have no idea, but I'm really open to some suggestions to have fun. I like fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can resume. Why not? Some people go to a restaurant, or maybe some social distance in the home, because at the end of the day, we want to lower our guards. And one thing he said is that fun is a glue in the organization. This is not something we just do. There is a reason. The very way that you, Linda, you mentioned it, is that not only we have it, but we plan. And sometimes after a very stressful moment, this is the way to lower your guards and keep replenish yourself the very same way your phone needs to be recharged. You as a human being needs to be recharged as well.
I think one of my problems, Roosevelt, is I like to have too much fun. You know, one of the parts of the book that I was struck with was the fact that if you're a leader and you're in the position to bring people into your organization, that you want to bring the very best people you possibly can bring into your work setting, your organization, whatever you can. However, that's not always the case. You don't always have the opportunity to choose the people that you bring. And a good leader is able to try to bring that person up to a certain level, or to show him a vision or a group goal that he could really tie on to. So I thought, and you see that a lot. I see that with my husband is working in, he's the CFO in an organization, and he was CFO in his last organization. And he would always get frustrated by the people that just weren't doing their jobs, and it would drive him crazy. And he would try to show them how to do it and question them and give them every shot, give them every shot and try to bring them up there and try to teach them how to do it. So I always admired his patience and his ability to do that, because I certainly wouldn't have that patience. I just tell them what they were doing wrong and tell them they'd better get there in order or else they're out the door. And that's why I'm not a leader.
Of course you are. There are different types of personalities. We have seen that. We know some people are more extroverts, some people are more introverts, some people are more part of the parties. And one thing is said, we have to have fun with your friends. That makes a happy sheep. We don't need a sheep. It's not only a sheep, it's a happy sheep. That's love boats. Steve?
Well, I think Elena had her hand up before. So Elena, why don't you go first?
Go ahead.
Well,
I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
But I'll try to turn it around. When Mary Helen was talking about having fun and how she missed being with people and having fun and how hard it is to do via Zoom, I wholeheartedly agree. And the only alternative I could come up with is that we should bring toast into Toastmasters. In other words, once in a while, have a glass of champagne during the meeting and toast each other and drink that champagne. And that's my solution. Yeah, thank you, Mary Bellis. Thank you for
I like
supporting.
that solution. Actually, that happened to me the other night. Oh, I'm sorry, Roosevelt. Can I just interject here?
After that? Because I am home, I will not be driving, even if I don't have my glass, but I lift my hands. And this is a way of toasting. But we know now those are things that we might incorporate in our culture. This might be a moment where we do something together, even if this is virtual, but we do it. And pretty soon, I know some people start going to places, and I can't wait for us to have this, maybe a restaurant in Fort Lauderdale, or maybe in a place, in a private home. I'm pretty sure those are, and we can stream, do it hybrid, because that's what leadership is about. Is whatever you learn, you need to apply. It's not only that you know it in your head, because if you don't apply it, that means you don't know if it works until you apply it. And this is something that we will be seeing when he wrote about legacy. How do you leave your legacy, your footprint, your imprint on things? The next thing that we would like to talk, if you just join us, this is the book club. We're having fun, having a conversation. And our book this month is the classic from New York Times business bestseller book, It's Your Ship, Management Techniques from the Best Damn Ship in the Navy, from Captain D. Michael ABRASHOFF. One thing he said, the power of words. The power of words. It's not only a ship, it's the damn ship. Now, being Toastmasters, and we work with words, why words matter in our organization? Why should we convey our message for innovation, for motivation, to push people to do more than they would have done by themselves? That's why we need words. And I would like to hear more from my friend, Ora. Would you like to start telling us the power of words and the way you understand it in this context?
The way I understand it, if I go by Toastmasters qualities, is that communication starts with words. When you have a new member coming in, a visitor to visit your club, you say words to that person and they feel welcome, they feel at home, they feel that you are embracing them, you're including them when you express those words. That communication skills, that's some of the basics of Toastmasters, is to that communication skills that needs to improve. If you belong to Toastmasters, your communication skills will go from 1 to 100 quickly, because you learn the styles, the communication skills are basic skills at Toastmasters. That's what I'm learning so far. Back to you.
Thank you. I would like to add something on this, the power of words.
Linda would like to add something.
Go ahead, Linda.
It's not just words, though. Words without the underlying intent are meaningless, and people can feel that energy that's behind them. We might go, oh, hi, it's so nice of you to join us, whatever. But if we're not really feeling that because we're not connecting with that person energetically, they get it. And they're like, they may not understand exactly what's going on, but something's not right. And before I joined Toastmasters, I went to 3 different clubs, and it was a very different sensation in each of the clubs. Some clubs were, the club that I ended up joining was very warm and welcoming and genuinely welcoming me to participate with the club. One of the other clubs, oh yeah, you want to join us, whatever, but they almost couldn't give me the time of day. They said all the right things, but it wasn't the intention behind it wasn't right. So it's not just words.
Isn't that someone who said that this is not the words, but the melody, the rhythm of the music? It's not what you said, it's how. Mm-hmm. So that's why I give some reserves. I don't call those techniques. Those are something that you feel inside. Of course, there are some abilities when you use them, but having a conversation with someone, trying to know that person in his inner core, that deserves more than just quote unquote techniques. That means this is not a spreadsheet that I'm trying to fill out. This is a connection. I have a feeling to transfer, and I have a feeling that I open myself to accept the feeling as well. And that's why it's so amazing. Now, he also writes about innovation, why innovation is so important. And in everything that we do, we can see technology nowadays is very present. But he says that technology by itself is not innovation if you don't grow the team that you are having. Who wants to add to this?
I just want to comment, it's based on what you just said, is that when he came on, he realized he could not do everything all by himself. So essentially, in his own little way, he had to duplicate himself in every single person that was aboard that ship. And that was to give them the power, some power of autonomy, with also the ability to follow correctly. So the ability to duplicate yourself will make your job much easier.
And also, as you said, innovation and progress, he wrote, are achieved only by those who venture beyond standard operating procedure. It's not something that is written and you are going to repeat it. So even if we have that SOP, those standards that we want to achieve, but sometimes we need to move outside of the box. We need to kick the box. And he said, you have to think imaginatively, but realistically, because you acting within some constraints. Even if you think you are a free thinker, you have your own ship, but you are part of an organization. There is a whole, as we will put it. You look for new ways to handle old tasks and fresh approaches to new problems. You have to push the envelope. That's what he called innovation. Innovation is not only about technology per se, this is about new ways of approaching things. Who wants to jump in this?
Well,
go ahead, Steve.
No, and that's why I go back to the concept of changing culture, because you have people that have been in the Navy, recruits for several years, and they have a certain mindset about how things need to be done. And then you have this sort of rabble-rouser who is now the captain of your ship, who is creating a culture of innovation and of self-initiative and of taking risk But you, again, and then you go back to the concept of trust, because these young seamen have to be able to trust him, to be sure that if they do take initiative, if they do pursue a path of innovation, that it's not going to backfire on them. And that's really easier said than done. I don't know how many of you have worked in major corporations, but I have, and you can take initiative and you think that you're going in the right direction, and it comes back to haunt you. I've seen this.
And Jack Welch at GE was probably one of the best when he was hired. Best example of this, when he was hired at GE, the first thing he did was blow up a chemical plant. And rather than getting fired because he made a mistake, they said, okay, well, let's keep you on. I don't think you're going to do that anymore. And we know what he went on to lead GE.
Yeah, but my last company was GE, as a matter of fact, Linda.
Okay.
That's the company I was.
That is a very good example, because when Welch came with the idea of those 6 sigmas, those have been through leadership examples. And GE was in a position where the company was doing too much with less result per department. Now, if a department is not positive, profitable, you get rid of it.
Yeah, but
at the end of the day, I think those 2 examples of leadership, they match what are we looking.
I don't agree necessarily. I don't agree necessarily with that. I was not Jack Welch was before my time, but my impression of Jack Welch and what happened to GE in the last few years, GE is not the company that it was even 5 years ago. If you look at their performance, it has been delisted from the Dow Jones. And it was and 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I used to talk about GE in different markets, one of the first things I would say is GE is the only company on the original list of the Dow Jones listed companies. And today it's been delisted because of its performance. Now, Welch did leave GE quite a number of years ago, but the culture at GE, to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't wish on anybody. Okay.
I concur. I concur on that, and I'm pretty sure we may have an opportunity to have a conversation on Wells leadership. But today we will. But there is something we can do. Training was very important at GE, and training is important here as well. And one part of training that I have here is the ESWS. That means even if you are an enlisted guy, but your job is to understand the whole organization for you to be able to explain, at least if you have a guest coming on the ship, you can show them the different departments. You can show them from top to down, even if this is not what you do in your day-to-day. And I do think that even in where you're working, even in your family, it's your ship or it's your club. So that's why now what I learned in that position is that I do not stay in my square, but I can know, and at a broader sense, the whole organization. Don't you think so?
Well, that point is very clear. However, one of the things that I think that do for the crew is that it allows you to walk in your shipmate's shoes. So if he's an engineer, you can understand what the engineer goes through. If he's an accountant, you understand what it goes through. So if you need to float, let's say you need to float some paperwork, and you understand that the HR department has to go through the paperwork and what they have to do with it, then you will take more time to figure it out, to put it together, and to make their life a little bit easier. That is what understanding the whole role of the organization is for me, is that you don't just think about what you do. You think about what you do and how what you do affects somebody else. or what they do and how it affects you. So understanding the whole role is a genius concept. Wherein, because if you can walk in my shoes, then you can understand me. And if you notice that what he tried to do with his boss is always to understand how they are thinking, what are they doing, how can I be one step of my boss. And I think that's a very useful concept in understanding how everything fits together to make one thing work.
I understand your point. It makes sense because a ship is a big operation. If you are an enlisted and you are working in the kitchen, by example, you may think the whole world is about food. But at the end of the day, you are contributing a small part to something larger. And when you understand the whole game, now you see, why should I prepare good food for those men? Because those men are doing an amazing job protecting the world or protecting the ship not to sink. And I totally agree with you on that. If you we have done an amazing job tonight. I really like the way the conversation is going. We started talking about the book. We spoke about his leadership style. We spoke about why having fun matters in our organization. And we even mentioned to have a fun coordinator. We also understand why relationships, personal relationships, asking people questions about themselves, leading through conversation, one-on-one conversation, and to listen to others aggressively. We have discussed that. And Steve, you came with the idea of culture and building a culture on trust. And trust, you have to earn it. And also results. In results, he said it's not about the salute. Those do not count. Results is exactly what is the game plan, what are the goals, and how do I communicate my goal to the entire team. And that's why communication is so important. We just spoke about innovation, and now we want to dig deeper. At the end of the day, this is John Maxwell who said, if you are a leader and you're taking a walk and nobody is following you, you're just a walker. And legacy is what a leader leaves after you. I would like us to take the last 10, 15 minutes to see exactly what is legacy. He mentioned legacy, the importance of legacy, and I will go exactly to say what he said in terms of legacy. The true measure of how well you did on your watch is the legacy you hand your successors. And we are part of organizations where every year we have to have successors. This is not a dictatorship where we come and we are there for life. We need to leave something behind us. And don't wish them ill. That means don't wish that your successor will not succeed so you can look good by contrast. That means some people who have the light on themselves want to shadow the other folks coming. What is the importance of legacy? I will start with you, Linda.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Oh, for me, legacy is making sure that the operation that you leave continues on in the best manner that it can. And one of the things that I've seen in Toastmasters from the club turnover, especially if you've got a club member or an officer who's burnt out, for instance, or they're taking some time off for whatever the reason is, there's really nothing written. There's nothing in, to help the new person come along. So mentoring that person is part of, to me, of leaving that legacy. But I also think one of the biggest things is it's not necessarily all about you. And that's one of the things I really liked about ABRASHOFF, is that he didn't care. He didn't care about getting the credit. He cared about doing a good job, and he cared about empowering the people that were underneath him to become the best that they could be. And I think that as leaders is one of the things we're most called to do.
I think you hit it on the nail. You hit the nail well. And he said the true measure of how well you did on your watch is the legacy you had. That this is something you give away. You don't take your leadership and your success and you blow it to you. This is something that you give. And that is very, very, very important. What do you think, Mariela?
Yeah, I think the idea, my reflection on this is, how do we compare a ship where people are employed to a situation as Toastmasters where everyone is a volunteer? They decide that they're going to be here. So is our method of leadership different or the same? Or are there some things in common or things that are different? You know, we always talk about people that have touched us deeply, and those are the people that left a legacy for us. It could have been a parent, it could have been someone in Toastmasters, it could have been a boss. But you know what? I love it when I see a good leader, because it makes me feel so comfortable and so safe. And you know, I don't know if I've ever aspired to be that person, but it's something that I could aspire to after reading this book. I thought it was quite good in laying that out, Roosevelt.
Lauren, what is your take on legacy? Why legacy matters?
Legacy matters. It matters. It's the continuity that you bring to your job, your workers, your people, your family. Especially in this book, because when he came in, people were leaving. They wanted to be out. They wanted to do the time that they signed up for and be gone. And he came in and he showed them that they were important, so that the job that they do have importance and have pride in that. And once he was able to put that forward, then the whole culture of the ship changed. And those skills that they've learned, and a lot of those are very young people who are on those. So those things that they learned, they will take and they will apply those to other areas in their life, whether they know it or they don't. And that is the legacy that he gave to these 300 and something. I don't know if it was 3,000. I think it was I think Mary Ellen's right. I think it was 300 and something people. I think this is a legacy that he left with his crew, of being responsible, be forthright, have integrity in your job, in your duty. It shows about who you are as an individual. So the legacy is important, very, very important.
To manage people from order giver to people developer. You develop people. They are not there just to receive, like they are a conduit that you power something into them, and they are like robot that will just repeat. And they have a mind. You don't use the mind that they have within the organization.
No, just very much like the young man who said he hates it. He goes, "How do you like being on the boat?" And he was like, "I hate it. I want to get off. I can't wait to get off." And he was like, "I'm working as hard as I can to have a boat of unified people." And this one kid just demolished his ego. But when he found out how that person can, the best of what we're talking about, bring out the best in that person, how it just changed, and the whole giving into the community that they gave. That's a legacy, because now it's something that they do all the time.
And also, not only he took that for himself, he wrote a book about it, and now he is a speaker. He carried those examples. Mm-hmm. And even if Toastmasters, I think, is not within this, is that we are in a leadership position where we learn and we can. I would like to listen to some speeches in your clubs about the content that we are covering, because that's what it is. This is the way people really learn about this. And one thing you mentioned is out of uniform. That is the last chapter.
Mhm.
That means, how do you take the whole spectrum of experience you have been having and to carry that experience outside of your duty zones? Some people say, if I want to compare it to Toastmasters, you don't go to Toastmasters to be good at Toastmasters. You go there to learn and to be
fail.
good outside, to serve. It's your family, it's your church, it's your synagogue, it's your business, it's your library, Dave. How do we see that we can carry those examples of leadership, of having fun? How can we incorporate fun in what we do to understand that we need to have that glue, Elena, in what you do? How do you see that you will take what we discussed today in your day-to-day activities? It might be at work, it might be at someplace else.
Well, like Stephen mentioned earlier, corporate America, I work in corporate America. And whenever I hear management saying, oh, we're going to have fun, I know we're going to get screwed.
I don't think I went that far.
Stephen, I think on some occasions you would agree with me and you would know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I don't think fun should be something like a line in the agenda for today. I think, like Stephen was saying, it should be part of the culture. You change the culture and the fun will come naturally because people will enjoy the culture, they will enjoy each other, and they will feed each other with that energy, fun, enthusiasm, mutual motivation, all the good things that we discussed today. That's all I have. Thank you.
I think this is well said, and I will go back to where we were. You don't want to mimic things to make them work. It should be something people feel, because if people do not feel it, it will not stay. And if it does not stay, it's not culture. Culture is not something you do, it's something that permeates on the organization and resists with time. And I agree with you, Elena, on this. Now let's wrap up our friends, our conversation today. Let's see what we get from that book. And I will ask, we will start with, let's say, I will start with asking, or what did you get from that conversation tonight, and why this book impact you, and what did you like about it?
What I like is that they emphasize the fact that to listen aggressively, and that's something that makes me different from other mental health care providers. I have I'm able to listen with intent, while focusing 100% of my undivided attention. I'm giving it to you. It could be a youngster, it could be an administrator, it could be a teacher, it could be a social worker, anybody who comes by during the working hours. That undivided attention makes a big difference, and I see it every single day. And especially with children, when you give them that undivided attention, they turn around and I'm able to build that relationship, that trusting relationship, once I give them that undivided attention. That focused attention is you. I'm listening intently with all my heart to you. And I think that's what the author refers to, listen aggressively. And that I can relate that to my life, my work. That's what I have to say.
Well, this is pretty well said. It's Your Ship, a truly great book. This book is interesting, it is insightful, and the wisdom applies to a whole spectrum of management positions. This book is entertaining, and this book is wise at the same level. This is one of the comments from another author. I would like to hear from you, Garfield, what you get from that book. In a nutshell, to wrap it up.
I got a couple things from the book. One of the things that I've never thought about, and just by opening the book, and when he talk about the cost of training, I never. That's something that I rarely think about. What does it cost to train those young men and let them go? And I started to think about what does it cost for us to develop new skills and just let it go and not taking advantage of it, to stopping. So that was one of the things that I got, that everything costs. There's a cost to everything. So you gotta be mindful of the cost of things and how quick you let them go. That was one of my takeaway. My second takeaway was that you have to walk in other people's shoes in order to understand and be able to commune with them and to be one with them. And that is what the point you talk about, when everybody learning everybody roles in the ship. That was, you understand that so you can walk in the next person's shoes. So it's important to do that. That's all I got.
I could not have said it any better. And Abrashoff learned the right lessons of leadership the old-fashioned way. Old-fashioned conversation, no text, no tweet, no notes, conversation, which is the old way. And he practiced it under fire, because that was a moment of war. And his reflections provide a fresh outlook and guide for all leaders everywhere, including yourself, Linda.
What I liked about the fact is that he didn't, and this is where I think his leadership really showed up. He looked at the entire Navy, the whole purpose behind what was going on, because to protect and defend, how best can we protect and defend? By being ready, by being combat ready. And he broke the biggest picture down to what is the piece that I'm in charge of to make the whole better. And that's the brilliance that I see in his leadership in that.
Dave, what are your last thoughts?
Roosevelt. Actually, one of my thoughts is based on what Garfield said. I thought it was kind of interesting when he said about why we learn about other people's jobs. And I thought about how we do it at the library. And so it's not that we become competent at that other person's job, but like he said, we get to know what's going on in their other jobs so we can understand how it affects the whole library. So this is just another piece of the puzzle. And as I thought about what he said, I think about what I'm doing. And I'm doing that in a sense when I try to keep all the staff informed about issues that are affecting the whole library. Just on the off chance that customer comes by and doesn't get the right person, that other person will be aware of the issue and know who they can contact so that an issue can be addressed.
That is amazing. And let's hear from Elena. Would you please share your last thoughts with us?
Well, I read only half of the book. And I read the first half because I did see the valuable points that he was making. I read only half of the book because the way he was delivering those points and his perspective, I could not relate to that, honestly. So I think what I learned from the book, perhaps not what the book intended, but that's okay. The main
So
thing is
you interpreted.
so what I learned from it is that I need to work on stepping over personality characteristics and looking simply at the ideas and seeing whether I can apply them to my life or not.
Thank you. And now let's listen. Steve, share with us your takeaway.
Most of the things I read in this book were things I had been exposed to in the past, particularly when you're in positions of management. These are sort of the basic elements of management and leadership. However, what this author did is he took things to a whole different level in the way he dissected every function of the operation, and he was able to better it and to get everybody to buy into his vision and mission of what he wanted to achieve, and how everybody working collectively could achieve those objectives. That's what was so impressive about what he had to say.
Sure. We have a couple of guests on our screen. If you would like to share with us, or at least to welcome you, we invite you to put yourself on camera if you want to. You're not obliged to do so, but if you want us to acknowledge you, we invite you just to put yourself on camera, and we will be more than happy to listen to you in a couple of words, or at least to introduce yourself to our community. And now, Lauren, let's listen from you and to listen to what is your takeaway from this conversation tonight.
My takeaway is a little like Steve. There wasn't anything that I hadn't heard before. It's how he did it, his approach. That's what makes it unique. Talking to people, connecting with people. These are things that we already know, but it's just very interesting to hear how he went about doing it in his particular type of organization that is a extremely structured organization that does not break molds very easy, and being able to have new ideas and show them that, you know what, you've got to have you have to be like bamboo, you've got to bend. And that was what I found to be quite interesting in the book, is still being respectful to the feel of the organization, but being able to bend with certain situations and issues that arouse. But it was a nice read. I did enjoy it.
I can see that, I can feel that in your voice. And one thing also, you agree with me, Lauren, we just need to be reminded. It's not about what we know, it's about that constant repetition. One thing I learned from you is that we, in the field of education, we just need to learn, unlearn, and go back to it. And the more we repeat, the better we become at it.
That muscle memory.
Yes, Marie-Belle, the floor is yours.
Oh, well,
What's your takeaway from our conversation tonight?
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster, and everyone else. I have not read the book, but I feel I have, based on our conversation today, and that is a beautiful takeaway. Thank you very much for having me here today. I got to run, but I am definitely going to visit this Toastmasters book club again. And what is the next book so that I can read it?
And for this, if you give me 2 minutes before you run, I will transfer control of this meeting to our host, Marilyn Day. But prior, this has been a pleasure to share that conversation with you tonight about an amazing book. You have been outstanding participants. And it seems to me that this conversation, and I hope that we can share that conversation to other fellows for them to learn and also to have an opportunity to learn and to share together. Because sometimes it's not about a book. A book is written in solo, and a book is read in solo. But the conversation that we have together, that builds a mastermind. And that's why I'm so excited about this book club. And now I return. Thank you. This concludes our book club for tonight. And now I return command of the stage to our host, distinguished Toastmaster Marilyn Day, for our upcoming book club and else.
And thank you, Roosevelt Jean-Francois, for your moderation tonight. We certainly got a lot more out of the book by your very good questions that you asked us all.
Yeah.
Now we have a couple upcoming books, and I'm going to start with March's selection first, because we're going to take a few minutes to discuss February's selection. March's selection has, and we're honored that Lorraine Campbell will be moderating March's selection. And I'm just going to share the screen for a second. And this is the, wait a minute. Am I doing it wrong here? Share screen. Can you see this?
Not yet.
Not yet?
No.
Not yet.
Okay, here we go.
There you go.
Here we go. Can you see this?
Yep.
Yes.
This is the title of March's selection. It is called Educated by Tara Westover. Should be a great read. And I said before, Lorraine Campbell will be our moderator for our March book club, which again will be on the last Saturday of March. And thank you, Lorraine, for choosing the book and for your agreeing to be our moderator.
Thank you for asking.
Now, our second book, which is next month, is a very special occasion because we are having, let's see. Can you see this?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, darn it. Okay, here we go.
Stepping forward.
Stepping Forward by Richard C. Harwood. And we're lucky here because we are going to have a very special event in February. And I would like Stephen Harwood to discuss a little bit about this author because he happens to be Stephen's brother.
Brother. Can't wait.
Okay, I'm going to stop the share.
Let me read something because I have the introduction that they use, and I'm just going to go through it. Rich Harwood, president and founder of the Harwood Institute for Public Innovation, has devoted his career to revitalizing the nation's hardest hit communities, transforming the world's largest organizations, and reconnecting institutions like newsrooms and schools to society. Over the past 30 years, Rich has developed a new philosophy and practice of how communities can solve shared problems, create a culture of shared responsibility, and deepen civic faith. The Harwood practice of turning outward, if you go to his website and see all this, has spread to all 50 states and is being used in 40 countries. He's done a lot of different things. One thing that you recall is in Sandy Hook, when they had that unfortunate incident, he was actually hired individually to lead the whole process of redevelopment of what they were going to do within that school system. I think that let's see here. So he will be here at the book club, and he'll be able to give his insights on the book himself.
Nice. Can't wait.
So that'll be a great opportunity for us to meet Stephen's brother, Richard Harwood, as he has written this book, and he's done quite a bit to enrich our communities. And in this time of political unrest, where so many people have so many divergent thoughts, and we feel less secure and less safe. than we have in years, truthfully, because we are not on the same page. It would be nice to hear his viewpoints and what we could do better as citizens to create a stronger community. Thank you, Stephen, and for getting your brother to come to our book club next month. I'm going to be sending out some links to his website and to a podcast that he's done in the email that I usually send out to all of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Roosevelt, good job. And we will see everyone next month. And the next month's book club, let me look at my calendar here, is going to be on February 27th. That's a Saturday, same place, same time, same number. And if anyone is not on our WhatsApp already, let me know your telephone number. We'll put you on the WhatsApp or on the email list. So thank you and good night.
And
Good
before we
night,
go, if you
everyone.
can stay like this, we'll have a picture together. Just 1, 2, 3. Let me make sure my hair is.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
And I hope next time we'll have some wine and some good food. Mylan, you will bring the wine, and Linda, you will bring the
I'll
food.
bring the wine, yeah. Okay,
And,
that sounds good.
And that will be fun. And Stephen, you will bring the music, because we need music. We want to have it all. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night,
Good night, everyone.
everyone.
you.
Bye
Bye
bye.
now.